We go back in the archives for this in-season episode from Grant Caserta, who is now the defensive coordinator at Illinois Wesleyan. At the time we recorded this, he was coming off a great season with Husson. He was a finalist for the Football Scoop D3 Coordinator of the Year, and he's always done an excellent job with his defense. So he's going to give us some insight into how he approaches the season with their game planning and other aspects of in-season defense. Here's Coach Caserta. Welcome to the Coaching Coordinator Podcast. We're here with Husson defensive coordinator Grant Caserta, who's making his second appearance on the Coaching Coordinator Podcast. Coach, we appreciate you taking the time to join us again.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me back.
Coach, let's focus first on things you do to prepare your team for a game week. First, with your coaching staff, how do you assign coaches to break down all the different data that you need to get and put reports together?
Yeah, so we have basically four guys that are going to help us do this, and I kind of split it up based on each guy's personal expertise. So I have one guy who looks at the pass protections, and he was a former offensive lineman, so he's really good at identifying pass protections and coming up with ideas to attack those. And then the run game will go to our linebackers coach, who was also a former offensive line coach, so he's really good at digesting the run schemes. And I'm the defensive backs coach, so I'll handle the pass game. And then the fourth guy will do some of the other stuff like personnel and hash and those types of things. So we basically try to split it up and use our expertise, if you want to say that, to make it efficient, to make it easy. And so nobody has to do too much. Everybody can kind of just do what they know, and we get it done pretty timely that way.
We have so much data available to us today with, the advent of the digital breakdown systems, which, now are close to a decade old. So being able to get 4, 5, even 6 games during the course of a season, depending on what time of season it is pretty easy. How much do you put into looking at the previous year's games to learn from the successes and failures?
Not too much, actually. We're going to look mostly at what they've done in the past 3-4 games, kind of take that, weigh that the heaviest, and then we'll look a little bit back the past year if they have the same staff. A lot of times we'll have teams that have a different coordinator or a different head coach or things like that, and that we won't even really use that tape at all. But we'll use it a little bit, but mostly it's going to be what have they shown so far this year? What are they doing to teams that are like us this year? Obviously, at the start of the season, if we don't have those films, we'll rely on those a little more heavily just because that's what we have to work with. But once we get going into the middle and the end of the year, we're mostly just going to focus on the stuff that they've done most recently or the teams that are most similar to us.
From a workflow perspective, how many games do you include in your breakdowns?
Typically, we'll do 3 games, the most recent 3. And like I said, if there's a team that's very similar to us, we'll add that one, even if it's not in the most recent 3. Just we like to know what they're doing now. Sometimes you get into week 8 and somebody got hurt or it's a different quarterback and things like that, and they're not doing the same things they did in week 1, 2, and 3. So we want to see what they're doing most recently, and usually the last 3 games will give us a pretty good picture of that.
So as you gain all this insight and you start to develop your game plan, obviously you have to convert that to practice time on the field. So how do you design your practice time to prepare for what the opponent does best?
Well, we're going to take the top 3 run plays, top 3 pass plays. We're going to spend our first day in pads on those plays. So for us, that would be Tuesday usually. Monday would kind of be a walkthrough sort of deal, and we'll do some corrections from the previous week and kind of introduce those top plays so we can be ready to get after it on Tuesday when we put the pads on. So what I want to do is try to find the plays that we think is their bread and butter, what they want to hang their hat on. We want to really zero in on those plays early in the week and do our best to prepare to stop those plays. And then we'll kind of introduce maybe their secondary plays or maybe some plays that come off of those top plays. But we're gonna identify probably the top 3, maybe 4 run and pass plays, and we're gonna go after those early in the week, just so we can make sure that we know how to stop the stuff that they're gonna want to run, 15, 20 times a game, and make sure that we give our guys the tools and they feel comfortable defending those plays.
Preparing your scout teams is kind of critical to making sure that you have effective practices. What things have you found in getting your scout teams ready and getting them to perform in a way that is going to most mimic the other team? What things do you do to get that out of them?
Well, it's a little interesting the way we do our scout team is we actually take the second offense and they'll run the scout team for us, and then vice versa for the starting offense will go against the second defense. And I think that helps us get a really fast look, or as fast as we can get it, because a lot of times they might be running, zone, power, or whatever, plays that our offense already runs. So our guys on the scout team know what they're doing. They know how the play should look. They know what steps to take and all those types of things. So that kind of gives us an advantage over having, the fourth string or the freshman or whatever be that scout team, because they might not know those little nuances that the older guys on the second team have. So I think that gives us a big advantage. It gives us a speed advantage for sure, because a lot of these guys that are giving us our scout look are going to play in the game on Saturday. So we're getting as close to a game speed as we can. And the other thing is it's competitive, because the guys really get after each other. The twos don't want to be twos. They want to be ones. So they play really, really hard, which is great for us. We want to see that tough look. And for them, it's great because they're getting better too. And they're running the same stuff that we run 80% of the time, probably. So unless we're playing, like a triple option team or something like that, that's a different story. But, a lot of the offenses these days are running similar type things. So we're getting a really fast look. Those guys are getting better. And our defense gets better because we get such a great look out of those guys.
Now, if that's what you do with your second team players, where do your younger guys, your JVs or your freshmen, where do they fit into the mix of practice?
Yeah, so they'll be on the other half of the field. So basically we work from the 40 in on one side, and on the opposite side, the threes, the third D and the third O will be going up against each other. And then they'll rotate, and the fourth offense and the fourth defense will go against each other. So they're going to have a predetermined script. I'll write a script for the defense, and the offense will write a script for them. And they'll just go at it for 8 play sets or whatever we're doing that day. So they're basically it's a team period, but they're basically scrimmaging. They're not tackling to the ground, but, we're running our defense versus our offense. So our 3s and 4s are getting quality reps within our system as well. And it's not, there's rarely a time when there's, 80 guys just standing around watching the 1s and the 2s go at each other. We have 44 guys practicing all at one time. So it's pretty important for us to do that, because when we do get to the JV games, our JV players have actually played our offense and our defense. And it really helps us, get those guys going in the games. Whereas if they're just the scout team, they don't get that many reps within our system. So while we're on the other side doing 1s and 2s, the 3s and 4s will be on the opposite side, kind of doing a scrimmage type deal where they're going at each other. And it's pretty fun, because by the end of the year, both sides know what the other side's going to do, because we keep it pretty simple over there. We're trying to work on basics. So those guys are calling out each other's plays and getting after each other. And it's kind of building a rivalry, which is pretty fun to see too.
Well, I tell you, Coach, I wish I would have talked to you about 3 or 4 years ago when we were doing it at BW, because we always had those issues of trying to get a good look, and I think that's such a great way of handling it now that I think about it, because your 3s and 4s are developing within your system, and it's so important, I think, for those young guys to do that rather than trying to just go off of scout cards, which typically is what we did. And so on the other half of the field, you have your 1D and 2D and vice versa with the offense going against each other. So what's the rotation between the offense getting their plays and the defense getting their plays?
So we'll usually do 4 plays, anywhere between 4 and 6 typically. So we'll alternate who starts. So offense will probably go first. They'll get their 4 or 6 plays. Then we'll just switch right over, and then the first defense will do their 4 or 6 plays. And we'll usually do something in between. So we'll do the offense is 4, the defense is 4, and then we might go to kickoff. And then we'll come back and do the second team, which will be 6 more plays on defense now, and then 6 plays on offense. So we try to interject some special teams in the middle there. So we kind of break it up. The guys have their legs under them. And I really like it that way because, sometimes you get into a big block of 30 minutes of special teams and some guys aren't involved. The linemen are either doing indie on their own or they're just standing around. So this way, people are always running in and out. You got to really be engaged with what period we're in, who's in the game, what we're doing. So it helps guys stay focused a little bit more by doing it that way. And also, we get quality reps because we're not gassing guys out because they ran 4 kickoffs and then they played 4 kickoff returns and then they go out to play defense. So it helps keep us a little bit fresh that way too, which is another added benefit.
Yeah, definitely. I like that concept. Coach, looking at each game week, will you introduce new defenses, new stunts, new blitzes, whatever it might be, into your scheme to take advantage of your opponent?
Yeah, we will a little bit. We really want to base everything off the things we're already doing. So if we come up with something where we see something in their protection or the way they're blocking a certain run play, and we think this could be a little adjustment we could make that could really help us, we'll do that. We're not going to overhaul the defense. We're always going to stay pretty close to our base. But if say we're bringing 2 off the edge, maybe we're going to cross those guys. So 9 guys are still doing the same thing, but 2 guys are doing something different, and we can just make a little tag on that or something and make that adjustment. So if we see something on film that we like that some other team has done to our opponent, then we might steal that and kind of mold it into our system. So we might not take it exactly how they did it, but we can say, okay, that's from a 3-4 look. We want to run it from a 4-2 look. Let's do it this way. So we might do that, but the main thing is we want to stay as close to our base as we can because we don't want to introduce 8 new things every week and then we forget about our first, second, and third best play because we're running 7, 8, 9. So if we find something that we like, we'll add it during the year, but we just want to make sure that we're not overwhelming them with new information each week.
Coach, as a game begins, one of the, I think, most popular protocols for an offense is they're going to come out and they're going to run 10 to 15 plays scripted. They're going to give you as many looks as they can to try to see what you're going to do. What's your response to do that? How do you first of all, how do you figure out if they're doing that? And secondly, what's your strategy to maybe combat that and not give them all the details that they want?
Well, we're gonna see what they're coming out in early. If it's something new that we haven't seen, then we're gonna obviously have to make an adjustment on the sideline. If it's maybe some teams like to sprinkle in some unbalance or different types of packages away from what they normally do, we want to. Hopefully, we've prepared for that. If we've seen it on film, we've put together some kind of answer for that. But in general, we're not going to see too many things each week that are totally different from what we can defend with a base package. So we'll stay in our base package, in this first part of the game, and we'll also send different blitzes to see how they're going to react, if their pass pro is what we thought it was going to be. So we'll kind of probe the offense a little bit as well and see how they react. Maybe we'll bring some off the edge. We'll bring some up the middle. We'll do some games up front with the D-line and see how they're reacting to that. If we know that maybe they have a new lineman in there, we might go after him and see if he can respond and if he's as good as the guy he replaced and things like that. So, but in terms of different looks that they might give us, it's our job as coaches to make sure that we've prepared them for everything that they've shown up to that point. If they show something new or something totally different, then we'll fix it on the sideline. But it's our job to get them ready for it during the week. So during the week, it's up to us to make sure that we've given the proper time to the base stuff, but also prepared them for anything new and special that the offensive might have in their playbook as well.
Coach, communication in the game is very important. So let's start with your coaching staff. What's the procedures you have set up for in-game communication to make sure that everybody, number one, is very clear and concise? Because I know if you don't have a system for that, it could get very chaotic. But then also, a way to get that to your players in a way that is going to be able to, affect the way they play on the field.
Yeah, so I'm on the field calling the plays. So I feel like that's the most effective way that with all the tempo offenses and this and that, we can get the call in as soon as we can. I don't have to relay it to somebody and then they relay it to the players. I can just send it out as fast as I can. In terms of what our coaches communicate to me, I have just one guy up in the box that's going to talk, because I don't want a lot of different voices in the headset when I'm trying to think about what we want to do next. And, the players are on the sideline talking and all kinds of coaches talking. We want to try to eliminate that as much as we can. So I'm just going to hear from one guy. He's going to tell me what the personnel is. That's the number one thing that I want to know, because we put a lot of stock into what personnel is on the field, especially if teams run multiple personnel groupings. That's really important for us. I don't ask him to tell me the down and distance or the formation or anything, because I feel like I can see that ahead of time and I can look at it, because I'm not a guy that's got every single play scripted out based on what field zone we're in, what hash we're on, what formation they're in, and this and that. I just am not engineered that way. I kind of want to see how the game is progressing. I want to kind of have a feel for it. So I have my eyes up on the field. I'm looking, I can see what the down and distance is, what the formations are going to be. So I just want to hear what the personnel is from that guy up in the booth, so then I can kind of get in my mind what types of plays we're going to see and then what types of responses we want to have.
Obviously, the up-tempo world, the up-tempo revolution, which started, some time ago, has also changed the way that defenses operate. So after your players receive the call, which you're trying to get in very quick, how are they communicating to each other in order to make sure that they're ready to go when the offense is snapping the ball, which we seem to be doing that quicker and quicker as the years go on?
Yeah, the way we do it is we kind of split up the calls amongst several guys. So, for instance, our free safety is going to call the coverage. Our rover is going to set the passing strength. Our linebacker, one of our linebackers, is going to set the front. And the corners are going to communicate how many threats they have to their side in terms of receivers and tight ends. So my opinion is that way it breaks up the thinking process from, say, back when I played in high school, there might have been one guy that made all the calls. Well, sometimes in college it's tough to have just one guy make all the calls when you're seeing so many different looks and they're going so fast. We want to give one guy one job, and he can do that really fast because he's done it a million times in practice. So by the time we get through the first week of practice, the rover can call the strength in 1 second, and the free safety can call the play call in 1 second. He can name that coverage. So that kind of helps us speed everything up rather than having to rely on one guy to get everybody lined up. We sort of split up the tasks, and we don't pair our front with our passing strength necessarily. So having two guys do that really helps us because, for instance, the linebacker can identify where the tight end is, and he can call the front while he's waiting to hear the pass strength. He doesn't have to wait on the pass strength to get the front strength. So those things kind of work independently of each other, and I think it helps all the communication happen quicker. Now, there's a lot of calls flying around, and you have to be able to listen and see at the same time, but with practice, we get pretty good at it, and it works out pretty well for us.
Coach, what's one defensive call that works for you guys week in and week out as something that makes a difference for you?
Well, we're a big cover one team. That's one thing that we're going to fall back on all the time. So that's kind of our bread and butter defensive coverage, and it allows us to keep six guys in the box, which we love. Our whole deal in defense here at Husson is we want to stop the run. So keeping six guys in the box at all times helps us do that. If they want to add guys to the box with tight ends and fullbacks, we're going to add safeties into the box to make sure we still have the numbers. So cover one really makes it easy for us to do that. The jobs are easy coverage-wise. We can handle any types of motion pretty easily with some communication, and it helps us to really just play fast. The guys know what to do, then they can just go make plays. So we've been really fortunate to have some guys that can play out on the perimeter, so that obviously helps. But that's going to be our number one play. It's flexible, it's adjustable, it's easy to run, it's easy to learn, and it allows us to make sure we have those numbers in the box so we can do what our real ultimate goal is to stop the run.
Coach, the last question I have for you is what is the one thing that you guys do in season that you feel gives you the winning edge on game day?
Well, I think it goes back to what we talked about with the scout teams, just the looks that we get out of our second offense and defense against our starters, just the speed and the intensity with which we get to practice because of the quality of players that are going at each other. So we get all kinds of quality reps during our team periods. It's competitive. It's fun. The way we interject special teams into it really makes practice move along. It's like the end of an hour, 45-minute practice or an hour or a 2-hour practice. It seems like it just flew by. Like, where did the time go? Because once we get going, it really goes fast, which is great because we get a lot done. It's fun. The guys aren't getting burnt out because we're going too long or a period's too long. So I'd say it's definitely the way we structure our scout teams and just our practice formula in general, in which we interject the special teams in between the team periods.
Coach, I appreciate you taking the time with us again and sharing some great in-season ideas. I love the idea of your scout team. I think certainly teams with bigger rosters who do go down into the third and fourth teams, you have an outstanding way of preparing them and preparing your team for the game week. So thanks for sharing your ideas today.
Absolutely. No problem, Keith.
Thanks again for tuning in during the season. We try to give you things that are relevant to the season and things that can help you right now. Of course, when the season ends, we'll switch to some of our off-season episodes and programming. Follow all we're doing this season at coachingcoordinator.com and follow me on Twitter at Coach K. Grabowski.